Jennifer Lopez, our serial dater and ultimate lover girl, well, now she's claiming she's never been loved before. And here's what I can tell you about it. You ready? Lights, camera, J.Lo drama. So here's the tea. Jennifer Lopez, yeah, that J.Lo, Jen from the block. She sat down with Howard Stern and dropped a love bomb that's got the internet buzzing. She said, very bluntly, she's never been truly loved. I mean, what? Like, hold up. She said no to the question, have you ever been truly loved? She said no. And of course, you know, our first thought, your first thought is, wait, J.Lo, like golden girl of Hollywood, multi-million-dollar movies, chart-topping hits, you know, never loved, right? I mean, here's what she dug into though. She looked back at her high-profile romances, yep, the rings, the mansions, the headlines, and she said it wasn't about her being unlovable. She said it was about the people she dated simply not being capable of love or loving her. So I'll let that sink in for a second. Picture this, J.Lo, you know, the icon, always giving something. She says, they gave me all of it every time, all the rings, all the things I could ever want. But then she drops the mic. They didn't love you. And yep, she even had to admit that she didn't love herself. So boom, that is the plot twist. Now let's unpack why this matters, because folks love the glitz, but J.Lo is saying the sparkle didn't save the soul. So point one, we all get hypnotized by things, fancy rings, big houses, ultimate rom-com relationships. I know I do. But J.Lo says even when you check those boxes, it doesn't mean that love actually lives there. Point number two, the capacity to love isn't about how many zeros you've got in your bank account or how many flash bulbs, you know, follow you down the red carpet. It's about what you bring inside. But that sounds like somebody rich talking. Now, she said her exes need to appreciate the little person inside of them. Okay, they need to love them. Point number three, even the superstar can fall into the trap. You try to fix others, you try to patch up holes, you hope the glam will distract you from the gut-wrenching truth. Now, J.Lo admitted that she didn't love herself. That is the kicker. She didn't say I wasn't loved like some victim. She just said they weren't capable. That's not just heartbreak, that's emotional forensic work, you know? So I hear you. I mean, so she's saying, you know, the exes are the problem and she's perfect. Nah, I mean, she's not polishing a halo or anything. She's saying we all have flaws. She's putting on the spotlight on the issues of the capacity to love, not just being loved. So now here's the curveball, because the drama doesn't end there. Of course not. Our girl J.Lo was also recently asked on Watch What Happens Live who her favorite on-screen kiss was. Amongst the A-list of hotties, you know, we got Matthew McConaughey, George Clooney, and of course her ex-husband Ben Affleck included. She surprised the audience. Her answer, my favorite, I just did a movie with Brett Goldstein and I'd say he was the best kisser. That's what she said. Her highest praise for best kisser didn't go to any of the previous, you know, heavy hitters over there. Yeah, not even Ben, not the big time deals. It went to someone new. So what is that about? I mean, on one level, fun, cheeky, you know, it's kind of quite the reveal. On another, it signals something changed, or at least something shifted. When someone who's kissed the biggest names in Hollywood and has dated the biggest names in Hollywood and she chooses a new name as the best, it sends a very big message. The old game, it didn't deliver. The old thrills, they're faded. Combine that with her quote about not being loved and not loving herself, new footage, big reveal, but the biggest reveal, that love isn't a trophy. It isn't a story for the paparazzi. It's messy, it's honest, and you know, you deserve someone who can give it, not someone who merely gifts it with extras and expects the headlines to kind of fill the gaps. So the next time someone shows you a ring or a mansion, you know, I got you everything type of deal, ask yourself, can you stay when the lights go down? I mean, I think I could. But J.Lo asked and J.Lo answered, and now she's walking forward better late than never, right? And if you're watching this wondering, am I valued? Am I loved? Good, because the first step to someone truly loving you is choosing someone who can. Mic drop. Jennifer Lopez is admitting that she has gotten way too thin, and it's all due to her role in her latest movie. You know how we expect J.Lo to look flawless no matter what? Well, she just dropped a bombshell for her new film Kiss of the Spider-Woman. She got very, very thin, and not just by accident. Let me take you inside how she transformed, why, and the surprise behind every inch of that look. So I got very thin for the role. That's what J.Lo told Gayle King on CBS Sunday Morning. She explained how she was chasing an old Hollywood glamour, you know, delicate yet strong, brassy, a triple threat kind of with edge. Now, to play Ingrid Luna, Aurora, and the ominous, powerful Spider-Woman, she needed to embody contrast, you know, ethereal yet fierce, you sophisticated yet very raw. Now, filming started actually in April of 2024, which is very interesting timing. That's also the month she listed, as her separation date from Ben Affleck. Many fans asked, was the weight loss due to stress or heartbreak or the divorce? But J.Lo shut that down very quick. She cleared the air on Live with Kelly and Mark, saying, I just finished a movie. It was all singing and dancing. I'm the thinnest I've ever been. I'm in fighting shape right now. And so yeah, this wasn't heartbreak slimming, it was role devotion, allegedly. Now, experts chimed in. Some estimate that she got down to around 125 pounds during that time. Now, that's a serious drop from her usual sleek, designer-ready build. Combine that with her singing, dancing, accent training, day in, day out, and you've kind of got a transformation that's hard, not gimmicky. But, there's more. J.Lo also revealed that one of her costumes was an absolute beast, like a gilded dress weighing 50 pounds. Yes, you heard me right, 50 pounds. She called it a nightmare to dance in, obviously. To twist, kick, move, all while wearing something that feels like carrying a small human on your back. That type of physical toll, it's very intense. The visual payoff, though, is spectacular. She credits costume legend Colleen Atwood for turning that kind of nightmare into cinematic poetry. The way the dress flowed, the silhouette, the lines, all of it kind of demanded precision and strength. And here's what strikes me. This is classic J.Lo. We talk about so many stars who change for roles, go through drastic, transformations, but J.Lo still has to fight a kind of typecasting that people froze her in this singer-dancer box, ever since Selena. She's admitted before, initial perception in Hollywood sticks. As she put it, people see you one way and they're slow to let you be something else. But with this role, it was like she said, I don't change, I grow. Jennifer Lopez just got caught cheating, and I've got all the details, so buckle up. Jennifer Lopez is no stranger to the spotlight, but her latest drama isn't about a new album or a red carpet look. It's about her first ex-husband, Ohani Noah, accusing her of cheating. Yes, you heard that right. Ohani, who was married to J.Lo for a very hot minute back in 1997, is now throwing shade and spilling tea all over social media. Lopez and Ohani Noah were married for only 11 months from 97 to 98. Lopez, who started dating Sean Diddy Combs shortly after her marriage to Noah ended, went on to marry 3 more times. Now, it all started when J.Lo appeared on Howard Stern's show and said she's never truly been loved by any of her exes. She claimed her past partners were, quote unquote, incapable of loving her. Cue Ohani Noah, who apparently couldn't let that slide. He took to Instagram, calling her out for playing the victim and accusing her of being the problem. He wrote, "Stop putting us down. Stop putting me down with your victim card. The problem is not us, not me. The problem is you." But Ohani didn't stop there. No. He alleged that J.Lo cheated on him during their brief marriage and even hinted at an affair with Sean Diddy Combs. He basically claimed that she lied and cheated, prioritizing fame over the relationship. He added, "You decided to lie, to cheat on me. You begged me to keep the marriage intact to avoid bad press." Now, let's be real, friends. Ohani's accusations, they're pretty bold, right? Like, he's not exactly a stranger to controversy. Remember when he tried to release a honeymoon video of the two of them? Yeah, that happened. So while his claims, they're juicy, sure, but take them with like the smallest grain of salt. This man has been dragging J.Lo and their grievances for like decades now. It's honestly giving obsessed. It's giving move on. It's giving I want another 15 minutes of fame, okay? He also made a point to say Lopez has been loved a few times. He continued to say, "You have been married 4 times and have had countless relationships in between. You've had good relationships, me, for example." And honestly, I don't know, that kind of made me LOL for real. Noah claimed to have moved out, of state to support the singer, leaving his job, family behind to care for her. He said, "You chose fame and fortune. Moving a part of our relationship, you decided to lie, to cheat on me. And even though I stayed, I even tried to keep the marriage going and alive. You even begged me to stay because at the time you didn't want bad press caring more about you." He ended up ending this little tiny baby rant by saying, "Tell the truth for once, let people know You are the problem. You should be embarrassed, ashamed of yourself. Damn, I mean, that's harsh, right? I mean, as for J.Lo, she hasn't responded to Ohani's latest rant. She probably won't, but this isn't the first time they've had a public spat. Back in 2011, Ohani sued her over her song One Love, claiming it referenced him without his permission. Womp womp. That lawsuit didn't go anywhere, obviously, but it shows there's a history of tension between the two. So what's the takeaway here? Jennifer Lopez's love life continues to be as dramatic as one of her music videos. Whether Ohani's accusations are, true or not, it's clear that their brief marriage left some lasting scars. And as always, the drama is never too far behind. I mean, stay tuned, honestly, because if history has taught us anything with J.Lo, this isn't the last time we'll hear actually from Ohani Noah either. Jennifer Lopez's name has surfaced in a $400 million essay lawsuit against her ex-boyfriend, Sean Diddy Combs. And let's be honest, it's hard to keep track of every Diddy accuser, but it's going to be difficult to not remember this one. The case, filed by Michigan inmate Derek Lee Cardello Smith, who, by the way, is serving his own decades-long sentence for an essay case of his own, alleges that Diddy spiked his drink and essayed him during a 1997 after party. Court documents reveal plans to call Jennifer Lopez as a witness, citing her past relationship with the rapper from 1999 to 2001 as potentially helpful for providing relevant insights. Cardello Smith alleges he first met Diddy while working as a bartender. Now, he claims Diddy invited him to a private after party at a Detroit hotel where the rapper offered him a drink laced with an unknown substance. According to the lawsuit, Cardello Smith lost consciousness and later woke up to Diddy engaging in intimate acts with a woman. He alleges Diddy remarked, "I did this to you too," upon noticing he had regained consciousness. While Lopez has not publicly commented on the allegations, her potential involvement has captured widespread attention. Speculation suggests her testimony could provide crucial insights into Diddy's character during the time of their relationship. Now, the mention of Jennifer Lopez has added a new dimension to the case, fueling public interest and speculation. And while it remains unclear whether Lopez will testify or not, her involvement could influence the trajectory of the lawsuit and bring additional attention to the allegations against Diddy. Now, Diddy's legal team has labeled it as baseless, and that Cardello Smith mentioned 2 different locations for this alleged incident. They are also arguing that the claims were filed past the statute of limitations. So time will tell if J.Lo comments or gets involved in this or not. So keep your eyes and ears out for updates on this very bizarre case. Jennifer Lopez once got hotel staff fired for autograph requests. And this is one of just all kinds of ironic. Like, J.Lo has had a fair few movie roles under her belt. One of my personal guilty pleasures is Made in Manhattan, which came out in 2002. Now, in this movie, and much like Jennifer's own Hispanic roots, the character plays a Puerto Rican hotel maid trying to make ends meet while she cares for her young son as a single mom. Now, in 2012, in her real life, Jennifer's trip to Germany made major headlines because a hotel worker, who was also a maid, who's named Prey Dodage, was reportedly fired on the spot for requesting an autograph. According to sources, Prey asked her assistant for an autograph and was fired literally the next day for no reason. Prey would go on in a statement to say, "A day later, the cleaning company that employed me at the hotel called and said Miss Lopez had complained. I was fired right there on the phone." Prey had said she asked as politely as possible and didn't think it would cause such a frenzy and definitely not get her fired, but unfortunately it did. The hotel denied the rumors, as did J.Lo, who called the story hurtful. Of course, when Jennifer was being interviewed on playing a hotel worker in Made in Manhattan, she only had wholesome things to say, with her stating, "My character is just trying to make ends meet. I really relate to her. You shouldn't judge or discard people." Now, talk about putting your money where your mouth is, right? This secret is one she's been trying to keep under wraps ever since it happened, because not her playing a struggling maid and claiming she cares, but then gets a struggling maid fired for simply wanting an autograph. So to be so fair, I see how the maid would assume J.Lo would relate to her, since she played this role like 10 years prior. Anyway, Jennifer Lopez has made it very clear that she is Jenny from the block. She has talked about growing up in the Bronx so many times, and honestly, I don't think there's a single person that doesn't know that. Now, Jennifer won't actually go to the Bronx, like she refuses to visit. Now, pulling yourself out of poverty is nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, it can be something to be proud of. A homeless Chris Pratt was once serving up shrimp and living out of an RV before he got famous, and Mila Kunis's family moved to the US with just $250 to their name. So while some celebs, put their humble roots behind them and never look back, like I mentioned, a huge chunk of J.Lo's fame comes from repeating over and over that she's still Jenny from the block. She grew up in the Bronx and her family wasn't rich. J.Lo has even gone on the record and said, "I shared a bed with my 2 sisters." And yet she won't actually go back there. And despite growing up in poverty in the Bronx and writing a song about it, J.Lo only agreed to be in a vehicle commercial if she didn't actually have to go and film it in the Bronx. Now, this report centered around J.Lo's 2011 Fiat commercial, where the company figured it would be neat to film the star in her home territory. Fair. And while the ad appears to be in the Bronx, it was actually filmed in Los Angeles. Now, it was reported that J.Lo used a body double for the Bronx, which is insane. I literally have no words, but also I have so many questions. Like, why not just film in the Bronx? Was she scared? Does she feel too good to go there now? Is there someone she didn't want to run into? These answers we might never know, but what do you guys think the reason was? Now, Jennifer Lopez has been known to give very questionable interviews and has been accused many times of being rude to not only the person interviewing her, but to everyone else on the set as well. Now, one interview in particular that was very alarming was one she did when her song Waiting for Tonight came out. She was being interviewed actually by her sister on the set of her music video for that song, and she said that while they were setting up to shoot, they were playing music. Now, when she arrived on set, she was annoyed that the music they were playing wasn't hers. Now, remember, she is the one recounting this story. Then she goes on to say that she started to vibe with the music. It was dance and catchy, but she said she did so begrudgingly. Then when the chorus came on, she was actually like, "Oh, this is my song. That's why I like it." The music was actually a dance remix of Waiting for Tonight that she just didn't hear yet. So that's why she didn't know, of course, or recognize it at first. But a lot of people saw that interview and thought, wow, what a narcissist. Like, how odd she was for saying what she said. Like, no self-awareness at all. She was laughing at her story like she was the most charming person in the world, not the humble, Jenny from the block that she tries to portray. This isn't the first time something like that has happened though, and it's been reported many times that her own music must be playing at all times in her trailers and hotel rooms. Now, I totally understand you enjoying your own music. Actually, I can't really relate to that as I don't make music myself, but it's weird to me how insistent she is of this rule. And it's alleged that it's absolutely mandatory, and she will go into a spiral if this demand isn't met. I think J.Lo repeatedly fails to read a perfectly legible room. The argument could be made that if she had any common sense, then she would have laid low for this whole entire past year. About 10 days before Thanksgiving 2023, the headlines were dominated by Cassie and Diddy drama and, the $30 million lawsuit. Now, there were several horrific interviews given by several former members of Diddy's entourage detailing horrible stories, and many claim J.Lo may have benefited from those horrible stories. Now, considering the plethora of other accusations still continuing to unfold many months later, J.Lo should have known or been advised to lay low or do some good to the world, give back to, the block she's always bragging about. But instead, she comes out with the most insufferable album / movie / documentary, whatever it was. The fact she had $20 million to lose for the trilogy of failures that she released, and at the same time was aware that her Catholic primary school and Catholic high school in the Bronx begged her for meager donations to remain in operation, and she gave them nothing, knowing the negative impact their dissolution would have on the block she sings about. One might say she deserves the slow burn of an extended downfall. Now, many critics have said that she lacks authenticity. One social media user said, aside from the fact that she has no actual singing talent and has been relying relying on the uncredited voices of other women like Ashanti and Christina Milian to carry her songs, she insists on pushing the narrative that she's a hood girl from the block, and it's become so obvious that everything about her is phony. No one from her old neighborhood claims her. She doesn't do anything for the community that supposedly made her who she is. In fact, everyone who's ever crossed paths with her as a service worker only has horrible things to say. Another person went on to say her latest projects reek of vanity and delusion. No one thinks Bennifer is the greatest love story never told. No one even asked for that. Even Ben seems embarrassed about it. And she tried to make this whole song and dance act about her life so deep and profound, but it's actually just completely unhinged nonsense that shows how out of touch of reality she really is. Now, a big secret J.Lo never wanted to get revealed but did is the story of how she shamelessly stolen songs and vocals from other artists. There has been allegations and controversy surrounding Jennifer's music and vocals over the years. Some critics and fans have accused her of using ghostwriters, auto-tune, and stealing vocals. One notable example is the controversy surrounding her hit single If You Had My Love in 1999. Now, some people claim that the song's vocals were not entirely J.Lo's, but rather a combination of her voice and that of a demo singer. Ashanti has even gone on interviews and said that they kept her vocals and ad-libs on the record, and in particular, J.Lo's song I'm Real was actually made for Ashanti. She even sang it, but it was given to J.Lo. Even the song What's Love by Ashanti and Fat Joe was supposed to be given to J.Lo, but Fat Joe actually stood on business on that one and made sure Ashanti stayed on that track with him, so good for him. Another notable example is the song Play from 2001, if you remember it, which was alleged to have used vocals from a demo recorded by, again, a different singer. J.Lo's team denied these allegations, stating that she has recorded the song herself. One of the most well-known shadiest moments towards J.Lo is, of course, the Mariah Carey moment. The feud between the two has been a topic of discussion for years, and it is the most notable instance when Mariah Carey said in an interview when asked about J.Lo, "I don't know her." That phrase has become so iconic, and Mariah also threw shade at the allegation that J.Lo doesn't sing her own songs. In an article, Mariah once said she only slept 3 hours a night, in response to J.Lo saying she sleeps 8. She then followed it by saying, "If I had the luxury of not actually having to sing my own songs, I would sleep 8 hours too." Shots fired. So, are you Team Mariah or Team J.Lo? Do you think she's guilty of every accusation thrown her way? Let me know what you think.
First off, we see Ben talk about how he felt exposed after Jennifer shared a private book of their emails and letters. 20 years ago, I fell in love with the love of my life, and during that time, I was making an album called This Is Me Then, Lopez is heard telling a crowd in the documentary. I hadn't made an album since then. Years later, we got back together, and I was very inspired. The inspiration came after her, quote, Bible, she calls it, which was the book Affleck gave her on their first Christmas together. It is every letter and every email that we wrote to each other from 20 years ago to today, she says, sharing that he titled the, quote, Bible, The Greatest Love Story Never Told by Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck, 2001 to 2021 and counting. Lopez placed the book in the studio and let her collaborators go through it for song inspiration. To Ben's surprise, Ben appears shocked and surprised to find out that Lopez shared this private book he gave her with everyone in the studio. When talking to the artist working with Jennifer Lopez, Affleck discovers that they gave him a nickname. I was like, "You've been showing all the musicians these letters?" Affleck says in the documentary, and they were like, "Yeah, we call you Pen Affleck." And I was like, oh my god. In the documentary, we also learned that Ben had some serious reservations of his love story being shared so publicly. I did really find the beauty and the poetry and the irony in the fact that it's the greatest love story never told, he tells the cameras. And if you're making a record about it, that seems kind of like you're telling it. In another scene, Affleck expresses how it was an adjustment for him to have her share their private life with the entire world. Jen was really inspired by this experience, which is how artists do their work, he says. I certainly do the same things, but things that are private, I have always felt are sacred and special because, in part, they're private. So this was something of an adjustment for me. Ultimately, Ben comes to terms with Lopez's project after realizing it's not all about their relationship. I don't really love being in the making of a documentary about my personal life, which is why I'm so relieved that I'm not really, well, it seems like I might be in this, but I'm not really, he he says. I was worrying for no reason. The movie wasn't about me. It was about the ability to love yourself, and that love story is a lot effing harder to find than Prince Charming. Next, we learned Ben had to make compromises when they got back together. Getting back together, I said, listen, one of the things I don't want is a relationship on social media, Ben says. Then I sort of realized it's not a fair thing to ask her. It's sort of like, you're gonna marry a boat captain, and you're like, well, I don't like the water. He added, we're just two people with kind of different approaches trying to learn to compromise. Next, we learned in the documentary that some A-list stars declined to be in the movie musical about her life that accompanies the documentary. In the documentary, Lopez reveals Anthony Ramos, the In the Heights star, was offered the role of her significant other in the rebound scene of the movie. He was going to do the rebound number with me and the glass house, she tells wardrobe supervisor Sean Barton during rehearsals, and he was like, I'm friends with Mark Anthony. Lopez was married to Mark Anthony from 2004 to 2014, and the pair share 16-year-old twins. The rebound scene that Anthony was supposed to be in shows Lopez in a toxic relationship with a drunken partner. The singer, however, never specifically mentions who the song and scene is about. We also see Jennifer crying about a past relationship and how it negatively impacted her self-esteem. She gets emotional as she recalls a relationship in which she says she was, quote, manhandled before she hit rock bottom and realized it was time to get out. Though she doesn't name the ex, singer and actress speaks candidly through tears about the experience and how it affected her going forward. Being thrown around and manhandled is not fun, she explains. I was never in a relationship where I got beat up, thank God, but I've definitely been manhandled in a couple of other unsavory things. Jen doesn't reveal who treated her that way, but her long career in showbiz has involved plenty of high-profile relationships in addition to her marriage now to Ben Affleck. Jennifer shares more about her past toxic relationships by saying, quote, there were people in my life who said I loved you and then didn't do things that were kind of in line with the word love. You have to hit rock bottom where you're in situations that are so uncomfortable and so painful that you finally go, I don't want this anymore. A therapist said to me, what if this was your daughter? What would you do? And it was so clear, she called. I was like, I'd tell her, get out of there and never look back. But for me, it was so clouded and so complicated with so much of my past and my own pain and hurt and dysfunction that I couldn't see clearly. It was like looking through fog. Jane Fonda had some honest words with Jennifer in the documentary while on a phone call with her. I want you to know that I don't entirely know why, but I feel invested in you and Ben, and I really want this to work, tells Jen of Ben Affleck on a call filmed for the documentary. However, this is my concern. Like, it feels too much like you're trying to prove something instead of just living it. You know, either every other photograph is kissing and the two of you hugging. Jennifer shrugs it off and laughs though. That's just us living our life, says. But Jane Fonda did have a point, and if Jennifer listened to her, it may have saved her from receiving horrendous reviews online after both movies came out. Some saying the movie musical is the worst movie ever made. One reviewer made a list called The Reasons Why This Sucked. I had no idea what was going on in the movie. There was no theme. Actually, there were too many themes. There were so many talented artists who were used more as props. They should have had bigger roles. This movie seems like an ode to herself for nailing down a man. It's not really about love. It's a movie about conquering a man. It's basically telling everybody that other relationships that her and Ben had were just filler until they could be together again. Her kids and Ben's kids are going to be watching this. Do they really need to know how much she loves making love to their dad? We all know it's not her voice singing those songs, and if it is, auto-tune should get a lot of credit, the reviewer says. The reviewer finishes off by saying she's narcissistic, way too in love with herself, and for people clicking more than 2 stars, did you actually watch it? Or are you just clicking on 5 stars because you love this egomaniac? Thoughts in the documentary on former co-star Jane Fonda's phone call, saying Jane is still very protective of her and felt like you're putting yourself out there to get beat up again. Jane Fonda's concerns resurfaced when she thinks about photos of the couple at the Grammy Awards in which Ben Affleck Affleck's disinterested expression became the target of memes galore and gossip about the pair's relationship. I get real scared, you know, with all that about the Grammys and he looks unhappy and I'm like, oh my god, what's happening? Vonda told Jennifer. Nothing replied. Jennifer Lopez also revealed she got multiple no thank yous from more fellow celebs that she hoped would appear with her in the movie. Taylor Swift, whom Jennifer joined on stage during Taylor's Red Tour 2013, declined, according to Today.com. Jason Momoa, Jennifer Coolidge, Lizzo, Vanessa Hudgens, Ariana Grande, and Snoop Dogg also allegedly declined. Khloe Kardashian was another potential celebrity cameo who dropped out. I don't want to force anybody to this who go, it's gonna be fun, Verse says in the film. Nobody wants to say no to me, Benny. I get that, she tells her manager, Benny Medina. But when an actor doesn't like a script good enough or is worried about it, that is what they'll say. Jennifer, who ultimately put $20 million of her own money in visual album, also admits in the film that the whole project made her nervous too. People are scared to put out there. I get it, she says. Took me a long time. I'm scared. I don't act like I'm scared. That's the secret to my whole effing career. Looking back on her childhood, Lopez also reveals that she felt very ignored by her dad and that her mother was always the center of attention. She got used to being around people who acted that way. Jen felt emotionally neglected as a child, Ben Affleck says. He continues drawing parallels between her longing for approval and his own past struggles with alcoholism. It's a hard thing to look at somebody whose professional life is wildly successful and who on Instagram looks like they're living the happiest life in the world. The thing you discover is there isn't enough alcohol in all the liquor stores in the world to fill up that thing. In Jennifer's case, I don't think there's enough followers or movies or records or any of that stuff. Part of you still feels a longing and pain. Ultimately, that's the work that you gotta do on your own.
Number 10, sharing the stage. J.Lo didn't hold back when it came to her opinion on sharing the stage with Shakira at the 2020 Super Bowl halftime show. In her newly released documentary called Halftime, she labeled it as the worst idea in the world. Quote, if it was going to be a double headliner, they should have given us 20 minutes. That's what they should have effing done. Basically, it turns out that Jennifer was frustrated with the NFL for booking 2 headliners and making them share the same amount of time that any solo performer would receive, as opposed to doubling it and giving the women extra time to shine. As a result, fans slammed the artist for coming off as entitled. While it's true that they only gave the performers 6 minutes each, the action-packed show garnered immense praise from fans across the globe, with many fans commending the women for showcasing their Latin heritage so brilliantly. What J.Lo was really mad about though is that previous solo headliners like Beyonce and The Weeknd received 14 minutes to perform. But judging by her complaints, it's clear that she feels offended that they asked her to share the stage at all. Number 9, cheating allegations. Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck have had an on-again, off-again romance that has been going on since the 2000s, with fans even nicknaming the couple Benifer. I mean, these two just got married this year after they first got engaged nearly 2 decades ago, but the timeline of their relationship is a huge red flag and included alleged cheating. So in July of 2002, Lopez filed for divorce from her second husband, Chris Judd, citing irreconcilable differences. But this news broke just months after Lopez had wrapped the movie J.Lo alongside her then boyfriend Ben. Even though she vehemently denied cheating rumors, Ben took out an ad in The Hollywood Reporter gushing about Lopez before her divorce wasn't yet finalized. In fact, even Chris Judd's father, Larry, spoke out against the couple and accused J.Lo of being unfaithful to his son. He insinuated that the affair started during the filming of J.Lo. Quote, I thought Mr. Affleck would honor a married woman and not just go right into the trailer, and added that she'd be happier if she'd just tell the truth and no one in her little circle is going to say one negative thing to her. But we'll never really know the truth of what happened. Number 8, music theft. The star has been accused of stealing and borrowing background tracks and vocals from other artists for years. One of the stars who accused her of doing this was Usher in 2005. He claimed that she stole a song that he cast aside while recording his hugely successful album called Confessions. Usher claimed that J.Lo's single Get Right is actually a re-recorded version of Ride, a song that he co-wrote the year before, which was only available online. He said, quote, I hate it, but I'd better get some of the publishing rights or else. I didn't put it on my album because I couldn't get it right, but I didn't expect J.Lo to just take it. And apart from being accused of stealing the same sample song that Mariah Carey used for Loverboy, J.Lo J.Lo was also given songs that were initially intended for Ashanti, which is why a lot of people claim what happened between the two artists was straight up music theft. In September of 2001, Lopez released I'm Real from her second studio album, J.Lo, that she worked on with Irv Gotti. But the song was already recorded and mixed with Ashanti's vocals, which is why you can still hear her background vocals in Lopez's version. Number 7. Makeup artist feud. Scott Barnes, who worked for J.Lo for the past 20 years, has had to deal with so much of the star's crazy hot and cold behavior. In the mid-2000s, the star essentially banished her longtime makeup artist, Scott Barnes, after rumors surfaced that someone had leaked info to the press about her and Marc Anthony's secret marriage ceremony. Speaking on the Jeff Probst show in 2012, when asked about how J.Lo treated him, he said, quote, "It was like I had the plague." But interestingly enough, eventually she ended up giving Barnes his old job back again after learning the truth, but apparently failed to apologize for being so cold and ruthless towards him. I mean, she literally cut him off without a word and blamed him for the leak without even confronting him. Barnes went on to say, quote, "I went right back to work with her and we just never spoke about it again," which is even weirder. The funny thing is, her celebrity makeup artist would go on to work with her for another 6 years and insisted that they remain on good terms despite the fact that she ghosted him and didn't even apologize for it. Number 6. The Marc Anthony romance. Celebrity gossip magazines could not get enough of the power couple in the early 2000s. They were absolutely everywhere and it seemed like fans loved the pairing. But their beginnings as a couple were super questionable to say the least. Anthony married former Miss Universe Dayanara Torres in 2000, while Lopez was dating Ben Affleck roughly around the same time. But the on-again, off-again couple picked their romance back up while Anthony was still married to Dayanara. So less than a week after Anthony's divorce was finalized, the couple surprised fans by getting married in a small, casual ceremony in her Beverly Hills home in early June. It really begs the question of whether or not J.Lo was some kind of homewrecker, because the timeline of the rekindled relationship seems really off. I mean, he actually broke Dayanara's heart, and she said, quote, "You go through hell. I cried until there were no tears left, until I was numb. I didn't want to eat, I didn't care to get dressed or take a shower, I just wanted to lie there." Anthony's feelings for Jennifer might have been there all along because the two had history, but he should have put way more thought into who he chose to marry in the first place. So in a way, they're both at fault here. Number 5. Insensitive comments. To give you some background on why everyone felt that J.Lo was trashing belly dancing. So a part of the 2020 Super Bowl performance featured young dancers sitting in glowing cages, which many people assume represented the immigrant children in cages at the US border. But she apparently had a hard time convincing the NFL to do this, and said, quote, "I'm trying to give you something with substance, not just us out there shaking our effing asses and effing belly dancing." She went on to say that she wants something real, something that's gonna make a statement, something that's gonna say we belong here and we have something to offer. Now, if you're confused about why that was so controversial, essentially she compared the art of belly dancing to just shaking your butt for the hell of it. In fact, that particular line was shared across Twitter and people were big mad. It was just a little culturally insensitive to say, considering the fact that the dance has long been associated with Middle Eastern cultures, and it's something that Shakira has become known for, using it to channel her father's Lebanese Syrian Arab roots. Number 4. Avoiding the Bronx. This one, train wreck of an ad campaign, led people to openly mock both Chrysler and Jennifer Lopez. The central premise of the ad was that sometimes J.Lo will drive through her old hood in the South Bronx in a Fiat 500 just to stay inspired. Although it sounds ridiculous, the marketing campaign obviously tried to draw on the singer's famous Jenny from the Block era. Most people recognize the song in which she pays tribute to growing up in the Bronx, which had been a solid part of her image since the 90s. In fact, the singer even titled her debut album On the 6, which is a clear reference to the New York subway train. A press release at the time even stated that she would be traveling through the streets of Manhattan to the Bronx where she grew up. But the ad backfired when the Smoking Gun reported that Lopez never actually went to the Bronx to film the ad and that a body double stand-in was used instead, calling it, quote, "such a breathtaking assemblage of urban cliches," and that was putting it lightly. Number 3. The movie line interview. The infamous movie line interview in 1998 that could have almost ruined J.Lo's career was truly worse than you can imagine. She was 27 at the time and fresh off the success of her film Selena. She basically decided to trash all the other celebrities celebrities that were big at the time and tried to trivialize their career and contribution to the industry. In fact, when asked about Madonna, she actually said, quote, "Do I think she's a great performer? Yeah. Do I think she's a great actress? No. Acting is what I do. So I'm harder on people when they say, oh, I can do that, I can act. And I'm like, hey, don't spit on my craft." It was so ironic because J.Lo would go on to do both music and acting for the rest of her career, and critics also trashed her acting on the big screen. Also, at the time, Madonna had been a star for a lot longer than J.Lo, so there was no real comparison there. And when Gwyneth Paltrow was brought up, Jennifer almost seemed to laugh and made it clear that she didn't take her fellow actress's career seriously. Quote, "Tell me what she's been in. I swear to God, I don't remember anything she was in. Some people get hot by association. I heard more about her and Brad Pitt than I ever heard about her work." Yikes. Number 2, accusations of racism. 20 years ago, Lopez was approaching full actualization as an entertainer, but a single from her second album, J.Lo, almost derailed her career entirely. The Murder Inc. remix of I'm Real, which features Ja Rule and Own Radio in 2001, was ruined by the N-bomb that she drops in her final verse. The issue was that the song was an instant hit, so much so that 10 years later, in 2011, Billboard gave it the 6th spot on its 40 biggest duets of all time list. But rightfully so, people were outraged by her use of the loaded term, not only because she's a Latina artist, but at her level of success, where she has a platform and sets an example to young fans. Using such a derogatory word is at best offensive. But as the accusations of racism started to mount against the star, she eventually spoke out to defend her actions on the Today Show. Quote, "For anyone who thinks or suggests that I'm racist is really absurd and hateful to me." Although many people think this is not an excuse, it was later revealed that the track was actually written by Ja Rule himself, and apparently he encouraged her to say it. And number 1, fired a maid. This one is really indefensible. Jennifer Lopez allegedly got a German hotel maid fired for asking for an autograph. Frey Dodaj was a staff member at the luxury Melia Hotel in Dusseldorf, Germany, during Lopez's stay in 2012. She was a big fan of J.Lo and worked up the courage to knock on the star's hotel door in Dusseldorf to ask for an autograph, and was promptly turned away. Frey claims that she was relieved from her post the day after the incident. She told The Sun, quote, "I am an incredibly big fan, so I took all my courage and rang the doorbell to get an autograph, but I was rejected by 2 assistants at the door. A day later, the cleaning company that employed me at the hotel called and said that Miss Lopez had complained. I was fired right there on the phone." If the incident really happened, it's hard to ignore the irony when you remember that Jennifer played a hotel maid in the movie Made in Manhattan. After receiving a rightful amount of backlash, the pop star wrote on Twitter, quote, "Come on, thought you knew me better than this, would never get anyone fired over an autograph. First I heard of this was on Twitter, #hurtful.
According to Dannii Minogue, for her it was J.Lo's insane ultimatums, and she's not alone in that. Some of the reports about Lopez's most egregious sounding on-set demands and ultimatums aren't just from projects she stars in, but also even when she's appearing on a show just for a single day. According to a report for her BBC interview, Lopez required enough dressing rooms for a 90-person entourage if she was going to show up on the day of. In 2022, Dannii Minogue shared what J.Lo was like on their shared episode of Top of the Pops. Minogue and Lopez were set to feature during the same filming, but Lopez, at the last second, threatened not to show. And according to Minogue, it was unless her backstage room was redecorated. "I was told everything had to be white, including the sofa. All I could think is girlfriend is covered head to toe in body makeup. How do you sit on an all-white couch?" Meanwhile, when she's the star of the show is quite literally revolving around her power-tripping schedule. According to an insider who spoke to Now magazine in 2011, Lopez demanded to eat at exact times every day, no matter what was happening. If the natural lighting was just right, if everything was set up perfectly, Lopez would still walk off set at 10:15 on the dot to eat food specially made for her. This source was from the set of What to Expect When You're Expecting, a movie that J.Lo filmed with Cameron Diaz, and the two famously didn't get along following her next worst J.Lo moment, the movie line interview, which went down in history, man. In an era of interviews PR managed within an inch of their lives, it's rare for a major star to shred into another, let alone half a dozen. But times were different in 1998, and while speaking the movie line, Jennifer Lopez appeared on a mission to burn bridges with every female actor of her generation. When asking Lopez why she believed she was even popular in Hollywood at the time, her answer was simply because I'm the best. During that interview, described as an orchestrated and deliberate scene, J.Lo's lounging by her swimming pool mid-massage as she proceeds to say that Cameron Diaz was a lucky model who had given a lot of opportunities I just wish she would have done more with. That she didn't know any work Gwen Paltrow did, and that she was famous by association to Brad Pitt. Oh, she also said she wasn't a fan of Winona Ryder, and even S-shamed Salma Hayek and bravely slated another multi-talent Madonna by saying, do I think she's a great actress? No, acting is what I do. So I'm harder on people when they say, oh, I can act. I'm like, hey, don't spit on my craft. Your craft, J.Lo? Bit of a stretch for someone who bit the hand who fed her. And I'm of course talking about her relationship with Rosie Perez, because J.Lo wouldn't have a career without her, yet bashes her. Perez was the choreographer at an open casting call for In Living Color in 1991. While the show's creator called J.Lo a chubby and corny looking girl during audition, Rosie saw potential in dancing, was adamant they gave J.Lo a chance. But in her autobiography, Perez recalled that soon, quote, all of the girls are coming into my office, complaining how J.Lo is manipulating wardrobe, manipulating makeup, and me, all to her advantage, Perez wrote. Adding in that when she confronts Lopez about this, she reacted like, quote, some ghetto biatch, screaming and pounding her chest. Though Lopez left In Living Color after just 2 seasons, once she made it big in Hollywood, she went right on a smear campaign on Perez, making disparaging comments about the woman. I was blindsided, Perez said. I thought we were cool. I called her up and she wouldn't pick up. And then the next time the pair run into each other, J.Lo pretends nothing ever happened. Nothing new. J.Lo likes to pretend a lot of things, like that her career wasn't built off of theft. It starts, of course, with Sony chairman Tommy Mottola and his contentious divorce from Mariah Carey. The newly Sony-side J.Lo was young and pretty and very desperate, so Tommy chose to use her as his pawn to try and sabotage Mariah's Glitter soundtrack, and he did so by giving J.Lo the same samples and beats he saw Mariah using. Mariah's single still comes out on top, but Mottola did, however, find success in damaging Mariah's career, and J.Lo and her team learned that her success laid in using the work of other artists. She especially profited off of Black underground artists, either by literally using their vocals or by taking and rewriting their songs with differing lyrics. Said artists were those like Shantae Moore, Christina Milian, Usher, Mariah Carey, and of course Ashanti, who wrote Ain't It Funny, and Natasha Ramos, who wrote Jenny from the Block. Both artists' backgrounds, ad-libs, laughs, and main vocals were used in the songs but uncredited. J.Lo's theft of music became so persistent and even repetitive for some artists that many began leaking their own music so J.Lo wouldn't steal it. And Usher was the first, but definitely not the last, to loudly sue the singer and win for it. But just like J.Lo, since The Block was mentioned, I'm now going to bring it up and tell numerous stories about it. This first one, how Jenny caused a fiasco. So Lopez once starred in a Fiat commercial in which she drove around the Bronx and explained why her old neighborhood continues to inspire her. Her deal with the Italian manufacturer was reportedly worth millions, yet she refused to actually return to the block that she sang about and forced Fiat to find a body double to do so. The owner of Mott Haven Barbershop, seen in the ad, said the commercial featuring the Fiat 500 car drove up and down the street of East 136, but Lopez was not at the wheel. Instead, it was a double that looked like her. J.Lo's people refused to comment on it, but Fiat was forced to, and they make a public statement explaining that the body double was because of scheduling decisions. I guess I can't be too surprised given that J.Lo even went so as far to refuse financial aid to her own old high school and community. Jenny from the Block has donated, rather stingily and minimally over the years, to charity, but never to her own suffering neighborhood, which has now been criticized by her former principal, Claire Latempa from the Holy Family School, for allegedly turning her back on the community. Latempa, who worked alongside the star's own mother, Lupe, at the school, tells the New York Daily News, Jennifer hasn't even sent us a CD. Her mother, Lupe, was wonderful. A sweetie. Wonderful with the kids. When Jennifer became famous, I asked Lupe if Jennifer could donate a scholarship in her name, and Lupe said, that's her money and that's it. The school board has since sent inquiries to the singer in the past, asking for potential scholarships be set up in her name for prominent music or dance students, but they've received no response. And Latempa adds that the recession hit parents hard. Many of them are single mothers. A lot have lost their job. And she said, I have one mother who worked at St. Vincent's Hospital for 25 years who's out of work. It's a hard time for families to make tuition. I keep praying she'll donate. It's hard to imagine J.Lo will donate anything though when she did something like the casino reclaim. Several TikTok users have accused Lopez of not tipping her waitstaff, but 2 stories in particular take the cake, or in this case, the tip. So TikTok user Penny claims that her friend, once employed at the Las Vegas Tavern, told her about serving Ben Affleck one night, and he gave said friend a $10K tip for the service. But once J.Lo caught wind of the tip money, she allegedly took it back. Apparently, Affleck was so mortified that the next day he sent a bouquet and $25,000 tip to the server. In a second TikTok now deleted, a woman corroborates this story, claiming the couple's notoriously anti-tipping. Lopez tells Affleck not to tip. He doesn't tip anymore though, baby. You don't need to tell him nothing. He ain't doing it. Taking back tips is some next level behavior from a millionaire like J.Lo, but the woman also cares so little about livelihood of others, she makes her staff jump through hoops. So, a flight attendant told Star Magazine how J.Lo refused to even acknowledge him after he asked to take her drink order. Instead, she turned her head away and told her personal assistant, please tell him I'd like a Diet Coke and a lime. And in 2022, amid TikTok's storm of fans sharing negative encounters with Lopez, one user, Kayla, shared how her father worked for a driving company, but he refused to drive for J.Lo after learning her rules. Drivers can't look at her or talk to her, they can't let her luggage touch the ground, and if they even glance through the rearview mirror at her, they could be subjected to a scolding. This is believable since a woman on Quora, Emily Watford, shared her experience working in a concert arena and watching a doorman get fired for making eye contact with J.Lo. And there is rumors of a construction crew from her house who were all banned from eye contact as well. It's absolutely insane to me though how stingy J.Lo is given how much money she makes, but even worse is she has incredibly low standards for earning it as well. Like performing for dictators. According to the Human Rights Watch, Turkmenistan is one of the world's most repressive countries. So it was little surprise that J.Lo is heavily criticized when she agreed to perform for its president's 56th birthday celebrations in 2013. This man's a tyrant responsible for breaching countless human rights laws, and she declared, "It was our pleasure," towards the end of her set, and "we wish you the very happiest of birthdays." Lopez representatives pleaded ignorance following the public backlash, one claiming in a statement that the A-lister would have turned down the invitation if she'd been aware of the president's past, as if she doesn't have access to Google. It would have been a viable excuse also if J.Lo hadn't already done similarly before. She took to the stage for an Aussie oligarch and then a Uzbek businessman's wedding for $1 million sums. And ahead of two controversial gigs in Russia, she reportedly told fans, "I don't like to talk politics, to be quite honest." But she seems really okay dropping political words. You know, like when J.Lo thought everyone would let her get away with dropping a slur in her 2001 remix of I'm Real. Not only did the song have zero similarity to the original whatsoever, but the Latina singer bravely drops the N-word in the opening verse. Penned by Ja Rule, who also rapped on the record, and its producer Irv Gotti, the track quickly came under fire from Hot 97, Star, and Buckwild. The morning radio DJs implored listeners to voice their disapproval of the song, and even planned to throw rice and beans at Lopez when she took to the Rockefeller Center's outdoor plaza stage for the Today Show. Edward Hawkins told the Washington Post at the event, "The singer still needs to make amends," stating when your music is geared towards suburbanites, there's a certain way you should carry yourself. Using a word like that when less than a third of her audience is African American or Latino is inappropriate. Lopez, however, never apologized for the stunt, instead insisting in a quote, "For anyone to think or suggest or say that I'm racist is really absurd and hurtful to me." A statement which very obviously doesn't actually even address her usage of the word at all, let alone the true reason that people were criticizing her.